I'm Malcolm Van Delst, and this is an excerpt from the Low Self-Esteem Reading Room, aka Loser, an experimental illustrated novella about a man losing his sanity. Last week, May described black air filled with worms and read a poem about Snow White and May's father. Kyle took an audience vote on who would read again. He won and continued with Naomi raging against love before describing parents who assume their child's life will be worse than death. The apples are already gone. Scene 3. A pale child wanders in grass, tall grass, almost as tall as the child. Her dog bounds ahead of her. The dog's head appears, then disappears, appears, then disappears, while the child's head, a ghostly sphere, is constant. It's end of summer. The girl runs her hands through the grass as the wind blows her hair around her face. The blades of grass turn over, revealing lighter undersides. You can locate gusts of wind in the fields by watching the color of the grass. Shh. Shh. If you're far from the field, you hear shh. If you're in it, the grains shifting. The field becomes an ocean, white-capped, across which the girl walks. Jesus, he's always with me. God is always with me, she thinks. God, Jesus, and the Holy Ghost are one. I can never be alone, never. Such a beautiful little girl. If you saw her, you'd want to take her home. You'd want to feed her, hug her, protect her. You'd want to remove the sadness from her eyes and make them sparkle, the way they did when she was telling you that ridiculous story. You'd delight in her growth. I will never be alone, she thinks. I will never be lonely. This thought comforts her. She has no plans to do bad things. She has no plans to murder her dog or set her father's barns on fire. The apples are already gone. The ones left on the ground are rotted, small, misshapen. She looks for her dog. Yip, 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 she hears in the distance. Foxes. End scene 3. Add some more reading night readers here. Rework and add more reading night readers. There's not enough. More reading night readers. A man, yes, he is Kyle, Kara, May, and Misty, who are all Malcolm, walks up to the stage. He's wearing a ripped gray t-shirt that has a palm tree and the word aloha on the front in yellow, and black jeans with what looks like a smear of white paint on the leg. He's unshaven, but not yet bearded. His short, straight brown hair hangs over his eyes. He motions to Kyle. Excuse me, Kyle addresses the crowd before bending down to talk to the man. The two whisper. Kyle looks annoyed, then holds his pointer finger up to the man in a wait a sec gesture. Returns to the microphone. My brother would like to read. Did I mention that we're working on the Naomi stories together? Can he read his part of our collaboration? No one says anything for a few seconds. Then someone in the audience, who is also Kyle, Kyle's brother, Kara, May, Misty, and Malcolm, yells out, "Sure!" Someone else starts clapping. Others join in. All right, Stuart, says Kyle, looking at his brother. Come on up. At the microphone, Stuart taps his iPad and reads. Beginning number 1. Jess. The beginning. Every story needs one, even though technically there are no beginnings or endings, just circles and circles, cycles, up, down, left, right, southeast, northwest. Spirals of energy whirling and dancing outwards from each one of us, from each molecule, multidimensional, so multidimensional that most of these transfers and transforms we as humans cannot see, not with our third, first, or second. What is that? Is there a second eye? Not with our collective eyes. Not with the eyes of all our great scholars, scientists, and mystics. We are like mole men, walking painfully and timidly, blind and defenseless in the brilliant light of all. We are that creature from Guillermo del Toro's Pan's Labyrinth. Our sallow skin sags across bones and pockets of collective fat, collected like wind-swept snow or sand stopped by fallen trees. Ravenous for food, sex, power, and pleasure. Hideous to look at. Terrifying, ignorant, imprisoned, blind. groping through life, creating stories and plots incapable of understanding anything beyond, I was born, I will die. My mother was born, my mother will die. My father was born, my grandfather, my sister, my brother. I have kids. In between this birth and the death, over which we seem to assume we have no control, we create stories, characters, plots, story arcs. The concept of no beginning and no end is too much, even if it is how things are. This is why Kyle and I are writing the Annie book. Life is not linear. It is not a graceful series of arcs and intersecting characters. It is soup. It is a garage sale. It's a garage sale 2 months after it happened that hasn't been packed up, in fact. The mattress and magazines are wet and disintegrating. It's Manila's garbage mountain. Life is a collection of lost and damaged molecules banging against one another because they have no control over reality. Until something happens. Violence, love, birth, death. It is a myth that life has form, this life we like to organize. We attempt to give it form. Each molecule is driven to order its reality, and the bigger, stronger ones win. This is our order. We cannot not write the anti-book. Each one of us writes an anti-book, if we cannot accept the one given to or made for us. Time for a story. Tim, the dog. The girl crossed the road. The girl crossed the ocean. The girl crossed the world. The girl crossed the cosmos. The girl crossed the living room. The girl stopped being afraid and grabbed her father by the balls and squeezed till he howled in pain, but he couldn't slap her because she was fast, fast like lightning. She crossed the road and disappeared into the forest. She zipped across the road and disappeared like a ghost into the woods that belonged to Mr. McDermott. Her dog was with her. Her dog was not a ghost. And she knew she could never be alone if God was with her, and God was. God gave her the strength to crush her father's balls. God would have suggested eating them, but she had to leave too quickly to cut them off. Instead, the dog had rats, and she foraged mainly from the mall. There was a mall on the other side of the woods. 5 miles walking, and she didn't know how to make a fire. She could catch small animals, but couldn't bring herself to eat them raw because she knew she'd get parasites. She'd read about feral children dying young because they couldn't handle the parasites they got from the raw meat fed them by their wolven foster mothers. She had no intention of dying young. So until she got matches, food from the mall, and rats for the dog. The dog's name was Tim. She called him after the last person she spoke to, not counting the screaming match with her father before she disappeared. Tim. She was working on a school project with Tim. They were supposed to go to the museum and write a report on farm implements of the 1800s. Here, Tim. Here, Tim, she called. Tim came running, and she fed him another rat from her bag. Tim could catch his own rats, but she was so much faster than him that she'd stalk up whenever she found a particularly good area. She fed Tim birds as well, and squirrels and rabbits. Tim was a black and white dog of uncertain ancestry. Part Labrador, probably, but beyond that, nobody really cared. He arrived one day and hung around. The girl wasn't particularly nice to him, but nicer than the others. Once they ran away, they became close. Guess she needed him more. Perhaps when she was gone, she had more time to open up, had less time to spend fending off attacks. And really, the dog was more prone to kindness than cruelty and manipulation. The dog was close to God. Tim was part of God, and he knew it, at least better than the humans did. That piece continues, but I'll stop there.